Micky, thank you for joining us, and thanks for being my guest today. I'm really looking forward to this enormously. A bit about your background before we kick off, just like kind of what have you done and what do you focus on now would be great.
Likewise, Mike, nice to meet you. My background is in advertising agencies, CEO of agencies in London, the inspiring Istanbul, where I spent 5 years running Turkey's biggest domestic advertising agency, and then a while in Dubai, which was somewhat less inspiring. And then my last agency job was with Saatchi & Saatchi on a European, Middle East and African role. I then pivoted my business completely and I set up the Denehy Connection. We train people and we develop brands, and I do that across Europe, and I love doing it.
Fantastic, very good. So we kind of like, before this recording, we had a few kind of email exchanges about things we could talk about that might be interesting to the audience that listens to this. And so I think one of the big questions is around, obviously the last 12 months, given what's been going on, the three biggest challenges and trends that you see, B2B marketing, advertising, as the markets start to recover. What do you think those might be?
I mean, without doubt, Mike, I think the biggest thing is the confidence of the C-suite in client companies. Because right now, if I was sitting on the board of some of the big marketing companies, I would be very nervous about committing to advertising and marketing spends. There is just so much uncertainty. That said, the evidence from previous recessions is that the brands that had the balls to invest through downturns were the ones that picked up fastest and had more sustained growth. But right now, I think the biggest issue out there is confidence at the C-suite level in client companies. So that would be my number one. I think alongside that, if you like, my number two, and some people love it, some people hate it, it is about agility. I think the reality is, Mike, that people are just so unsure when lockdown's going to end, when we're going to be back to normal, that they really are unclear about what to do when. And therefore, I think for marketing services companies, that issue of agility is critical. And always associated with agility is risk taking. And let me be an old professor for a while, but one of my
by all means, carry on.
Around risk taking is a great French philosopher. And if any French listeners are listening, excuse my pronunciation of his name, it's Guillaume Apollinaire. And he said these lines, which I often use when I'm speaking in conferences or working with people. And he said this: "Come to the edge," he said. "We can't. We will fall. Come to the edge," he said. "We can't. We're afraid. Come to the edge," he said. And so they came, and he pushed them, and they flew. And I think right now, more marketing executives and more agency people need to come to the edge and take more chances. Because the truth is, in marketing, if you keep doing the same things, it's not going to work. You need to try new things. If it goes tits up, get back on your feet, learn and go again. But right now, I sense there's too much conservative behavior. And I think the third really interesting trend that's really accelerated through the pandemic is purpose-driven brands. I think that
very interesting topic, Micky.
Well, it's very, and I've been doing a lot of work in it, Mike, so I'm very happy to talk to you more about it. But I think what I would say, and my observation is working with both big brands and small brands, is what was once a nice to have is becoming a business imperative. Because we are seeing consumers are actively making brand choices around purpose-driven, around sustainability, and obviously recyclability and the rest of it. And you only need to look at the big players such as Unilever, look at General Mills, you look at brands like Persil, good for dirt, good for the planet, Hellmann's, taste, not waste, or General Mills having a huge push into regenerative agriculture, looking at soil diversity. There are so many things going on. And for me, the bellwether is always the good old Super Bowl commercial break. And so many of the ads in Super Bowl this year were so much around, forces for good and sustainability. So those, Mike, would be really the top three that I think. I mean, there are many others, but I think they're the ones that really sing out to me.
Very interesting. On this series, I was talking to someone last week about purpose-driven brands and brand equity, and they've done a 8-year study across 4,000 brands about the correlation between purpose-driven brands and the building of brand equity. And there's a direct correlation. But you can't game the system. What they worked out was you can't be purpose-driven overnight and just follow the herd. Because if you follow the herd, you'll get the same as everyone else. You need to be, driven by your purpose over the very long term.
Mike, absolutely in the money. It's interesting. Even at my age, I have learned so much over this year, and I had real pleasure working with two really interesting people in this field. Working actually with General Mills, and I won't divulge what the project was, but I was working with the ex-sustainability director at Marks and Spencer, a chap called Mike Barry, and also with the ex-sustainability director at Innocent Drinks, Jessica Sampson. And we were working on a project with General Mills. And what you've said is so true, is that, where the absolute danger is greenwash, what brands and businesses need to do is to genuinely dig deep into what they do, how they do it, and clearly communicate what it is about their brand and the way they produce and deliver that brand that allows them to genuinely connect with consumers in a way that makes sense. Not an easy task. I mean, explaining regenerative agriculture in a 30-second TV commercial ain't easy. But I've done a lot of reading about wilding projects in agriculture, and it is an extraordinary, interesting, and really important journey. And I just think brands need to get onto that now. The really interesting thing is Europe is so far ahead of North America. So in terms of consumer behavior right now, brands in Europe have to put sustainability and purpose-driven right at the heart. And in North America, it's still going from that nice to have to business. Yeah. And there is a lag, I suspect, with the new administration embracing a lot more of some of the world's climate change forums. I think there will be more legislation coming into North America that will accelerate it. And Canada is sort of in between the two. So it's very interesting having a global perspective on these issues.
Micky, it's been fascinating, really fascinating. And thank you ever so much for giving your time. I really appreciate it. Where can people find out more about you? So what resources do you have they could look at?
Well, I'm lucky to have an unusual name. I have an Irish dad and a Scottish mum. So Micky Denehy, if you're Irish. If you Google Micky Denehy, you'll find me instantly, because I think there's only one of me. But more prosaically, you can certainly find me I've got a very big social media footprint. I don't bother running a big website. I use LinkedIn a lot. And any of the viewers watching this want to find me, LinkedIn. I enjoy connecting with people who've got interesting businesses or interesting stories. So that's the way to find me. And as you'll see, I'm self-declared passionate about developing people and brands, and that's what I do. And I love, this is the first time I met you, Mike, and what a pleasure. And I think this is the way the world works, is that you meet someone who's reached out to you, and it's really a real pleasure to engage and just to share stories, because that's where, we learn ourselves, and hopefully from this we both build business, which is what we want to do.
And I've really enjoyed it, Micky. I've really enjoyed it.
And me too, Mike. And good luck with your business, and let's connect again soon.